My phone rang at 1 in the morning. I was already pacing, the silence of the house pressing in on me. 1 minute I was looking up the non-emergency number for the police, convinced I was overreacting. The next, my heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Unknown number. I answered immediately, bracing myself. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, the kind medical people use when they're about to deliver news you're not ready for. She asked if I was Daniel Miller. I confirmed. She told me she was calling from Midwest Medical Center. My wife, Sophia, had been admitted about an hour ago following a vehicle accident. Everything went blurry for a second. Sophia? An accident? My wife could have died. I asked if she was okay. What happened? The nurse said Sophia was stable, but had a concussion, some lacerations, and a possible fractured rib. She was conscious, asking for me, and I told the nurse I was on my way, 20 minutes, tops. Then she said it. The words that didn't just stop my blood, they froze it solid in my veins. Sir, I need to inform you that your wife was not alone in the vehicle. I froze. My brain tried to make sense of it, but it just short-circuited. I managed to ask what she meant. The other passenger in the vehicle was a Mr. Marco Santos, she said. He was also injured and is currently being treated in the ER. Silence. Complete, deafening silence. It wasn't the kind where you're searching for words, it was the kind where every single thought in your head has been deleted, replaced by a single, screaming question mark. Marco Santos. I knew that name. Sophia had mentioned him before. Always casually, always in passing. An artist, she'd said. Did freelance design work. They'd crossed paths at a networking event months ago. He'd helped her find a graphic designer, recommended a gallery. Marco. The guy she'd never once suggested I meet. The guy whose name came up just often enough to seem normal, but not quite enough to seem suspicious. The nurse's voice cut through the fog. Sir, are you still there? I choked out a yes, still on the line. She asked if I was coming to the hospital tonight. I looked around my living room. The couch where Sophia and I had watched movies, the wedding photos on the wall, the coffee table where just yesterday morning we'd eaten breakfast and she complained about her boss and I'd listened, like a good husband. I thanked her quietly for calling, for letting me know. She started to say something about Sophia asking for me, but I hung up before she could finish. I placed my phone on the kitchen counter, carefully, like it was made of glass and might shatter. Then I sat down at the table and stared at the wall. 5 minutes? 5 hours? I honestly couldn't tell you. Sophia had lied to me. She hadn't gone to see Chloe. She'd gone to be with Marco Santos. She'd looked me in the eyes, kissed me goodbye, let me help her carry her bag, and driven off to spend the night with another man. And then she'd crashed with him in the car at 2 in the morning, coming back from wherever they'd been together. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything or punch the wall. I just sat there, feeling like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything that made me human, leaving behind an empty shell that still knew how to breathe. That's when my marriage ended. Not when I filed the papers. Not when I moved out. It ended right there, sitting at my kitchen table, still wearing the t-shirt I'd slept in, holding a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing with calls from the hospital. Calls I wasn't going to answer. My wife was in the hospital, asking for me, and I wasn't going to go. Everyone would think I was a monster, and I didn't care, because the person I'd promised to love in sickness and in health had just revealed herself to be someone I didn't even know. I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking I should have gone to the hospital, that I should have at least made sure she was okay before making any decisions. And maybe you're right. But here's what I realized in that moment, the elaborate lie she constructed, the fake crisis with Chloe, the careful planning. All of it told me this wasn't a mistake. This was calculated. When someone can look you in the eyes and lie that smoothly, what else are they capable of? That question terrified me more than anything else. I sat at my kitchen table until the sun came up, staring at my phone as it buzzed and buzzed with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. And I let every single one go to voicemail. I wasn't being cruel, I was in shock. The kind of shock where your brain just shuts down because it can't process what's happening. Like when you touch something so hot that for a second, you don't even feel the pain. You just feel nothing. That's where I was. Nowhere. Around 7 in the morning, I called Chloe, Sophia's friend, the one she was supposedly visiting, the one going through a terrible breakup. Chloe answered on the 4th ring, groggy and confused. I asked her if Sophia was still there. There was a long pause. Then Chloe asked what I was talking about. I explained that Sophia had driven up Friday evening to spend the weekend with her, to help her through her breakup. Was she okay? Could I talk to her? Another pause, longer this time. Daniel, Chloe said, her voice soft with confusion, I'm not going through a breakup. And Sophia's not here. I haven't seen her in like 3 weeks. Is everything okay? I thanked her, mumbled something about everything being fine, and hung up. Something cracked inside my chest. It wasn't the affair. I mean, yes, the affair was horrible, but people have affairs. People make mistakes. People get weak or stupid or selfish. What broke me was the lie, the planning, the sheer deliberateness of it all. Sophia hadn't just cheated on me in a moment of weakness. She had constructed an entire false reality. She picked Chloe's name specifically because she knew I wouldn't question it. She'd invented a breakup, invented a crisis, looked me in the eyes, and told me this elaborate story. Let me help her pack. Let me kiss her goodbye. Let me worry about her tire pressure, for crying out loud. Every single word was calculated. Every single moment, a performance. And I had believed all of it because I trusted my wife. I needed to see the car. I don't know why. Maybe I thought seeing the physical evidence would make it real. Or maybe I just needed something concrete to hold on to because my entire reality had just dissolved. I called the police department, got the address of an impound lot in the industrial park off Highway 33. I drove there around 10 that morning. The car was worse than I'd imagined. The entire front end crumpled like a tin can. The windshield shattered. Dried blood on the driver's side headrest made my stomach churn. But that's not what truly got to me. What got to me was the luggage. Sophia's overnight bag was still in the back seat, partially unzipped, clothes spilling out. I opened the door and pulled the bag closer. That's when I saw it. Lingerie. Expensive lingerie. The kind she'd bought for our anniversary last year. Black lace, red silk. Things I recognized because I'd seen them in our bedroom. She had packed them for him. She had taken the intimate things that belonged to our marriage and brought them to another man. I felt sick, but I kept looking. Some part of me needed to know everything. There was a separate, smaller toiletry case. Inside, protection, massage oil, a bottle of expensive wine. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. Meticulously planned. Then I saw the car seat. Our nephew's car seat, still strapped into the back seat where I'd installed it 2 weekends ago when my brother and his family had visited. Sophia had seen that car seat. She had looked at it, known it was there, and still gotten into this car with Marco Santos to drive to wherever they were going. She had been willing to risk not just her own life, but potentially a child's life, if circumstances had been different. If my brother had needed us to babysit. That's when something fundamental shifted in me. Up until that moment, part of me had still been thinking of Sophia as my wife, as someone I loved who had hurt me, someone I might eventually forgive or understand. But standing there, looking at that car seat, I realized I was looking at the wreckage left by someone I didn't know at all. The Sophia I married would never have been this reckless. The Sophia I married would never have planned something this elaborate. The Sophia I thought I knew didn't exist. She never had. I took photos of everything with my phone. The luggage, the lingerie, the toiletry bag, the car seat. I don't know why. Maybe for evidence. Maybe just to prove to myself later that I hadn't imagined it. Then I closed the car door, walked back to my truck, and drove home in complete silence. My phone had 23 missed calls by then. Some from the hospital, some from numbers I didn't recognize, several from Sophia's sister, Isabel. I ignored all of them. When I got home, I sat down at my computer and looked up divorce attorneys. I read reviews, compared prices, checked credentials. I did it the same way I'd research a new laptop, methodically and emotionally detached, because if I let myself feel anything, I was going to fall apart. I scheduled a consultation for the following week with a guy who specialized in high-conflict divorces. Then I went into our bedroom and started pulling my clothes out of the closet. I wasn't moving out. Not yet. But I needed to separate my things from hers, because I couldn't look at our shared closet anymore without wanting to burn everything in it. Isabel called again that afternoon. This time, I answered. She was crying, asking me where I was, why I hadn't come to the hospital. Didn't I care that Sophia was hurt? What kind of husband abandons his wife when she's injured? I let her finish. Then I said, very calmly, that I couldn't be around someone who had lied to me so completely, and that I was filing for divorce. Isabel went quiet. Then she asked what I was talking about. What lie? And I realized Sophia hadn't told anyone the truth. Of course she hadn't. So I told Isabel everything. About calling Chloe, about the fake breakup story, about Marco Santos being in the car, about the lingerie, and everything else I'd found in the overnight bag. Isabel didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said she needed to process this and that she'd call me back. She hung up. She didn't call back that day. And when she did start calling again a few days later, it was to beg me to visit Sophia anyway, because family is family. I guess blood really is thicker than water. Or maybe she just couldn't accept that her sister was capable of something like this. Sophia called me on Monday morning from the hospital. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Maybe I wanted to hear what she'd say. Maybe I needed confirmation that I was doing the right thing. I don't know. Her voice was weak and shaky. She asked me where I was, why I hadn't come to see her. Didn't I care that she'd been hurt? She said she'd been asking for me for 3 days and nobody would tell her where I was. She sounded genuinely confused, like she actually couldn't understand why her husband wasn't sitting by her bedside, holding her hand. I didn't say anything at first. I just listened to her breathe on the other end of the line. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 4 years, and I felt absolutely nothing. Then I told her, very calmly, that I knew about Marco Santos. There was silence. Not the kind where someone's thinking of what to say. The kind of silence where someone's entire world just collapsed and they're trying to figure out how to rebuild it fast enough to salvage something. Then she started crying, saying it wasn't what I thought, that she could explain, that it was complicated, and I needed to come to the hospital so we could talk in person. I asked her if she'd been with him that night. More silence. Then she said yes, but that I didn't understand the whole situation. I asked her if she'd lied about going to see Chloe. She said yes, but she'd only done it because she didn't know how to tell me the truth. I asked her if she'd packed our anniversary lingerie in her overnight bag to wear for another man. She didn't answer that one. Instead, she started talking about how much pain she was in, how scared she'd been when the car crashed, how she'd thought she was going to die, and all she could think about was me. I told her I'd spoken to Chloe, that I'd seen the car and everything in it, and that I'd already contacted a divorce attorney. She lost it, screaming at me through the phone, calling me heartless, asking how I could abandon her when she was lying in a hospital bed, saying I was a monster for caring more about my pride than about her safety. I let her scream until she ran out of steam. Then I said the only thing that mattered. You looked me in the eyes and lied to me. I told her that she'd planned this, that she'd used our friend as a cover story, that she'd let me help her pack a bag full of lies, and that I couldn't trust a single word that came out of her mouth anymore. She went quiet again. Then she said something that made me realize just how far gone we really were. She said that what hurt her most wasn't the accident, wasn't even losing me, but that I was being so cruel when she needed me most. Like she was the victim here. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. The pressure came from everyone after that. Her sister Isabel called me regularly for 2 weeks, begging me to at least visit Sophia once, to give her a chance to explain in person, to show some basic human decency. Her parents called me too, her dad especially, saying I was making a mistake, that marriages go through rough patches, and you don't just throw away 4 years because of one night. One night. That's what they kept calling it, like it was a drunk kiss at a party and not a premeditated weekend getaway with another man. I tried explaining it to them, but nobody wanted to hear it. They didn't care about the lies or the planning or the fact that their daughter had used our mutual friend as an alibi. All they saw was an injured woman recovering at her sister's place and a husband who wouldn't come see her. I was the villain in their story, and nothing I said was going to change that. I filed for divorce 5 weeks after the accident. The process was ugly. Sophia fought me on everything. The house, the savings, the furniture. My attorney presented the evidence, phone records I'd subpoenaed showing months of calls and texts between Sophia and Marco. Credit card statements showing hotel rooms and restaurants I'd never been to. Charges I'd never questioned because we kept our finances mostly separate, and I trusted her. The photos I'd taken at the impound lot. It wasn't one night. It had been going on for almost 7 months. 7 months of lies. 7 months of looking me in the face every morning and pretending everything was fine. 7 months of planning and covering tracks and playing the role of faithful wife while living an entirely separate life I knew nothing about. When I saw all that evidence laid out in black and white, I felt vindicated, but also devastated, because it meant I'd been living in a fantasy for more than half a year without even knowing it. 7 months after the accident, after the divorce was finalized and the house had been sold, I called Sophia one final time. Not because I wanted closure, or because I'd forgiven her, or because I thought there was anything left to say that mattered. I called because I needed her to understand one thing that I don't think she ever had. When she answered, I could hear the hope in her voice. Like maybe this was me calling to say I'd made a mistake, that I wanted her back. I didn't let her talk. I just told her the truth as clearly as I could. I didn't leave because you were in that car with him, I said. I left because you were willing to lie so easily, to plan so carefully, to risk so much just to have what you wanted. I left because I realized that if you could do all that, then I had no idea what else you might be capable of, and I couldn't spend the rest of my life waiting to find out. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something about how I'd never understand what it was like to feel trapped, to need something I couldn't give her, to be desperate enough to make bad choices. Like that explained anything. Like that made it okay. I told her I hoped she found whatever she was looking for, that I genuinely meant that, but that I couldn't be part of her life anymore, because I didn't know who she was, and I didn't trust who she might become. Then, I hung up. That was 3 months ago. I haven't spoken to her since. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not going to the hospital that night, if I wish I'd handled things differently, if I think I was too harsh. And honestly, no, I don't regret it. Because the truth is, I didn't abandon my injured wife. I protected myself from a person who'd been lying to me so long and so well that I'd started to believe the fantasy was real. And maybe that makes me cold. Maybe that makes me heartless. But it also makes me free. Some people survive car crashes. I survived a marriage to someone I never really knew. Here's what I've learned from all of this. Trust isn't just about believing someone won't hurt you. It's about believing that if they do hurt you, it'll be because they made a mistake, not because they planned it. Sophia didn't make a mistake. She made a series of calculated choices over 7 months. And each one of those choices told me exactly who she was. I just wish I'd been paying attention sooner. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Don't wait for the second chance, or the explanation, or the apology. Just believe them and act accordingly. It might save you months or years of living in a lie. And to everyone out there who's ever felt guilty for walking away from someone who hurt them, you don't owe anyone your suffering. Not your spouse, not your family, not your friends. You owe yourself peace. And sometimes peace means walking away from people you once loved. That's not cruelty. That's survival. Do you think I was wrong not to go to that hospital?